Hi, everyone. My name is Lena Castanos, and I will be moderating today's webinar. I will begin by introducing the Capital Pathways program. Then I will introduce myself and give the word to our guest speaker, Jamie Diane, QuickBooks Pro Advisor, who will introduce herself and take us through a presentation on QuickBooks. Feel free to ask any questions through the chat function throughout the presentation. We will be responding to them as we go. The questions that we cannot respond to in this webinar, we are happy to address through our no-cost one-on-one services or connect you to resources that can help. We will share a recording and slides of this webinar afterwards. So, what is the Capital Pathways Program? It is a program funded by the U.S. Treasury SSBCI initiative, sponsored by the Virginia Department of Small Business and Supplier Diversity, and hosted by the Virginia SBDC and George Mason University. We can start with the program overview, then we will go through the program eligibility and finalize with its services. Capital Pathways is a no-cost specialized SBDC program that helps small businesses build the systems and habits needed to become capital ready. Why does it matter? Being capital ready matters because those less prepared self-select out or fail applications. Early failures correlate to lack of adequate capital. Higher cost alternatives don't build long-term capacity. Only half of requested amounts reach small businesses. To put things in perspective, about 25% of small businesses need access to financing for growth and preserving cash flow. However, just 20 to 30% of those who apply for loans actually get their loans approved. Capital Pathways creates a path to financial and legal readiness. Our program offers an immersive hands-on group experience paired with one-on-one support. Who is eligible? Very small businesses and nonprofits at any stage facing challenges accessing traditional financing. The services that we could provide include a self-assessment that pinpoints your business key gaps so we can connect you with the right tailored resources either through our Capital Pathways program or other resources that can help. We also have a legal structure validation, financial skills and tools, and loan application readiness tracks. So as mentioned, we start with a self-assessment and we connect you to resources that can help. Under our legal structure validation, our in-house advisors can help you through more basic legal questions, and we partner with a law firm which can help you for more complex topics related to business registrations, trademarks, and contracts and agreement reviews. We also offer financial webinars on topics including financial basics, financial statement preparation and analysis, and QuickBooks training, like today's. Another one of our offerings includes one-on-one individualized and tailored support on business foundations, profitability and pricing, financial forecasting, financing options and readiness, financial statement and tools, and loan readiness and lender prep. Finally, our loan application readiness services include both webinars and one-on-one individualized support. The webinars are on topics such as what lenders look for in loan applications, interactive mock loan interviews and sample application analyses, and SBA loan options. We also have a partnership with a lender that provides one-on-one support to those looking for capital. If you are interested in getting started, you can reach out through our website at virginiasbdc.com/program/capital-pathways. Or you can reach out to me directly at lcastano@gmu.edu. I will send my email and website link in the chat for all of you to have. Now over to introductions. As mentioned before, my name is Lena Castanos and I am today's moderator. I have a professional background in economic development, small business support, and access to finance projects domestically and internationally. I am currently both a program lead and a business advisor in the Capital Pathways program. Today's session will consist of a 2-hour presentation. Again, feel free to ask any questions throughout the presentation via the chat function. We will be responding to them as we go. We will stop every here and there for questions after each section. The questions that we cannot respond to in this webinar, we are happy to address through our no-cost one-on-one services or connect you to resources that can help. We will share a recording and slides of this webinar afterwards. Now, I will give it over to Jamie to introduce herself, tell us a bit about her background, and start her training.
Thanks, Lena, and good morning, everyone. As Lena said, my name is Jamie Dion. I am the owner of Balanced Bookkeeping based out of Charlottesville, Virginia, but I work with business owners all around the state and country. I used to, in my past life, be a teacher, and so this is how I kind of keep that teaching muscle moving and strong. And so I hope that I'm going to help you to take something that is like a different language to many, QuickBooks Online, and turn it into an approachable tool that you can use to build your business and move your business forward. And so this is beyond the basics of QuickBooks Online. So the hope today is that you have the basic understanding of QuickBooks. Hopefully you're already using it in some capacity, or you took the QuickBooks 101, the basics, with me last month. And so this is building upon that. This is moving you from compliance, right, from the tax side, into using this as a tool to make financial decisions and to build your business in a sustainable way. This webinar is meant to be highly interactive. I don't want to be talking the whole time. I want you to be doing and exploring and experimenting. And so I just put into the chat box a link to the QuickBooks test drive. So this is a tool that you can use today, but also any day. So I recommend that you bookmark it. And this is basically a test account, right? Like a sandbox account where we can explore and experiment without the repercussions of messing up your data. So go ahead and click on that test drive. If you feel strongly that you want to use your own QuickBooks, that is absolutely fine too. But go ahead and split your screen. So have half of your screen be QuickBooks, right? Either that test drive or your own, and then have the other half be me, the Zoom, so that you can see what I'm doing on my half. Okay, and so basically I'll introduce you to a new feature, and then I'm going to give you about 3 to 5 minutes to explore, experiment, see how this could relate in your own business. All right, so I'm going to do that. Lena, would you unshare so I could share, please? Oh, and one more piece of housekeeping before we get rolling. When you have questions, again, highly interactive, this is what I want. If you have questions, please put them in the chat box. When you have the 3 to 5 minutes to explore, that's when I'll be answering all of those questions. So definitely get those in there so that you can make the most of this time together. Let me see. Oh, I need to go into the test drive. 1 second. All right. So this test drive is Craig's landscaping and design services. So take that with a grain of salt, right? So if you have a very different business than Craig, your setup might look much different than this, okay? So the first thing we're going to speak about today are receipts. And I know, I feel like this is the bane of a lot of our business owner existences, because it can be a real lift and a real nuisance to have to hold on to those receipts for the 7 years that we are expected to, right? If we think about it, the minimum is 3 years. That's 3 years from when you file your tax return. But there are some circumstances where you might need to be showing receipts even further out. And so I think the easiest way to make sure that you have what you need is to set up some type of system so that regardless of when and where and how this transaction happened, you're able to find it really simply, right? And so QuickBooks knows this and they've created a solution for you. So we're going to go to accounting over on our left toolbar and receipts. Okay. And so QuickBooks actually has 4 different ways that you can get your receipts into QuickBooks. Okay. You can upload your receipts either from your desktop, right, or Google Drive. You can, there's also a QuickBooks app that you can download on your phone where you can take photos of your receipts while you're on the go and have them automatically upload into your QuickBooks Online here. And then the fourth way that you can get receipts into QuickBooks is by using an email that you can put in when you like are on the go and you have those square registers, right? And they ask for your email. Instead of putting in your personal or your business email, if we click here, manage settings, you can create an email, a customized email too. So if I do edit here, right, instead of all these numbers, I could do jdion at assist.intuit.com, right? Or plus expenses at assist.intuit.com. And I can be putting this in to those registers or those in order for them to come immediately here. So think about the type of business that you have. Where are you getting receipts? Are you getting them via email, right? Would it be easiest to upload something from your computer? Are you on the go? Could you use the app and take photos when you go to Lowe's, when you're out and about? Or maybe you would like to instead have an email that you put in rather than your personal or your business. So let me show you what happens. Where did I go? Okay. So here is, for me, a networking coffee that I had a couple weeks ago, right? And so you can see that AI is processing the receipt that I just uploaded, right? So it's taken the screenshot, it's processed it. And now down here, we can see there's the actual receipt. So it's already linked. It's saying who it's created by. Craig is the landscaper, right? We're in the test drive right now. It's taken the date from when the purchase actually was, right? If we look over here, November 18th, right there. The vendor, right? There's the coffee shop, the amount, and they're already categorizing it as meals and entertainment. Now, because obviously this didn't come out of Craig's, right? They haven't linked my payment account because it's not the same, right? They're looking at the last 4 on my debit card, right? And that's what they would be matching it to on this payment account. Once this information is resolved, over here, it's going to say match instead, and it's going to match to the transaction that I've already categorized in my bank transactions. Okay, when that happens, then this receipt is now automatically connected, attached to the transaction. So if I ever needed to find something, right, I could navigate in here, whatever the expense was, say it was Tanya's nursery, and the receipt is right there. There's my source document, kind of like in a nice tidy bow, right? So this is QuickBooks' solution to this, okay? I have some people that say that's giving a lot of power to QuickBooks, right? With QuickBooks and their fees going up, 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 I don't know if I want to have all of my data in QuickBooks. And so that is totally valid and a valid concern. And so if this isn't the route you want to take, there are other solutions rather than keeping everything in a file folder, right? What you could also do is have a Google folder, right, for 2025 receipts. and then have each month within there. So January 2025 receipts, February 2025, and you can save that to the drive, right? What I want us to move away from is the paper copies, right? Having all of those filing cabinets. So go ahead, and also my last little nugget. Now is a wonderful, wonderful time to be thinking about these things. Number one, thinking about your bookkeeping, but number two, how you're going to manage your receipts moving forward into 2026. So, what is a system that you can create and hold tight to make sure that all of your receipts are organized in a nice, tidy way? Okay, so I'm going to give you, this is your first little experimenting, exploring break. Go ahead and take the next 3 minutes. See if you can upload some receipts into either the test drive or some into your folder, into your file, into your QuickBooks. If you don't like the idea of QuickBooks, go ahead and audit your current receipt capture system. How can you tighten things up? How can you make sure that every receipt is getting where it needs to go? Okay, so 3 minutes. And then if you have any questions, start putting them in the chat box and I'll answer them as we go. Yes. Okay. So Emmy Bet says, can you do this with bank deposit slips? Yes. So you can really get, hold on, I need to split my screen. I can't see your Zoom and my work at the same time. Yes, so this can really be for any purposes and it will still match it to the receipt. And you can actually see here that you just need to have a different, you would send it to a different folder so that they know that it's an expense. I mean, it's a deposit and not an expense. But yes, the other option you have, right, when we're thinking about having tidy record keeping, is if I go over, after I click on all these pop-ups, is that when you're categorizing too, right? So sometimes you have something in an email, you have something that's not easily moved over to the receipts. You always have the option to add the attachment when you're categorizing. So this is a great like you question. How does your brain work? What would be the easiest way to assure that you always have your attachments, your receipts, your invoices, whatever, attached directly to that? Okay, great question, Emmy Bet. Any other questions? Now that you've seen the receipt features, anyone thinking about moving to QuickBooks rather than whatever your current system is? Or does anyone have a separate system that works really well that you'd like to share? I'm not the keeper of all information. I love to hear what other people are doing as you go. Melanie says, if you leave QuickBooks and say 3 years, can you download your receipt files along with your other data? Yes. Yes, yes, yes. I usually say that in this webinar, Melanie. Thank you for nudging me. So if you're in your receipts, you can always export them, all of them, okay? To have them all in a nice place. Same deal here, right? You can export all of your data out of QuickBooks. My experience, right, though, is that exporting data always can get a little bit messy. So I just I always just really lean on the side of trying to be conservative and make sure that you have these in a very clean space. Yes, Jennifer, awesome. Jennifer says that I just discovered the email feature and it's been a massive benefit to me. Same deal. This is what I usually use when I'm out and about, is I just have it and it comes immediately right over here. Yep, Brienne says, I'm very glad to learn this option. I'm planning to switch over to the upload feature where AI can grab the relevant information from the receipt. What a time saver. Absolutely. And you can see they're trying to have you save as much time as possible. So this is a newer feature where you can select multiple at once. So maybe you have them all in one folder and you can just drop them all and they'll all upload at once. Yes. I've run into too many mistakes with the export, but as long as you're committed to QuickBooks, right, I think that it's a great way to have everything in a nice clean spot. All right, let's keep rolling. So our next place we're going to go to is recurring transactions. So to get to recurring transactions, again, it's underneath your accounting tab right here, recurring transactions. And so this is honestly one of my biggest time savers as a bookkeeper. This is where you can create plus new recurring transactions for most any feature within QuickBooks Online, right? So recurring bills, recurring checks, deposits, expenses, invoices, sales receipts, journal entries, basically anything that you might import into QuickBooks. Instead of having to create it again and again and again, you're able to have a recurring template basically for these. And so when we think about recurring, we want it to be with the same vendor and customer for the same amount, typically on a frequency, okay? But it doesn't necessarily need to be at a standard frequency. So for example, which one do I want to show you? So we can see here that Craig has his monthly building lease on here, right? He pays Hall Properties $900 every month on this date, right? Same with the telephone bill. Now, where this can get really helpful, right? If we think about maybe instead of just having this monthly building lease, right? What if he actually pays Hall Properties $1,200 every month, right? But $200 is for the electricity, gas and electric, right? And he pays, let's see if he has internet. We don't have internet, but if we wanted to add it, right, he also pays 40, he also pays $40 on that utility, on this bill for internet, right? Then instead of you having to split this up every month when it hits the bank account, right, we have this already split up so that these categories go into your P&L in the appropriate places. Okay, I see a lot. Another way to do this, another bill, right, would be for leases, right? If you have a car payment and you want to separate your loan payment, right? Let's say that this is the loan payable, which is $560 a month, and I want to separate that from the interest, right? Interest paid. I can set this up as a recurring expense scheduled for what comes out of this checking account on the maybe 15th day of the month. And that's going to split that up for me already, especially because that loan payable is on my balance sheet, right? And this would be, again, Craig doesn't have some of these that we need. That's okay. Right, so the interest paid would get put on my profit and loss, right? That's a business expense. Okay, so those are some examples of bills. Another one for recurring transactions, if anyone is using Square or Stripe or Shopify or PayPal, right, any other POS platforms, we're going to talk about this a little bit more when we get to invoicing in just a bit. But if you think about what your deposits look like from Square, right? When you have a deposit from Square, it's a lump sum of your actual sales, yes, but also probably your sales tax, your Square fees, your gift card sales, right? It could if you have a Square loan, it's taking that loan payment out of there. A lot of different things. And so when we see that lump sum deposit, that's not at all accurate, right? We want to look at that payout and break it up into your merchant fees, your sales tax, all of that. And so what you can do in that instance is create a recurring journal entry. And this time, so like we could call this Square adjustment, right? We would have this be unscheduled. And we could do like let's see, let's pretend this is the merchant fees, which would be a debit. And let's keep it simple for the sake right now, right? And then this would be the sales of income. And so basically what we're going to do is remove the amount or take the amount that we are paying Square and add it to our sales of product income account so that this income account is the true income that you have collected from your customers. Okay, so watch what happens. So if I click save, right, now I have this Square adjustment. So at the end of every month, I'm going to log into Square, look at my Square summary, and then I'm able to use this, adjust the date to the last date of the month, right? And then if this is the commission and fees, $15, this will add the $15 to my income to have it be the true amount that I've collected for the month. Does that make sense? So that's another example of when I might have another recurring transaction. You can also, we have invoicing in here. So if you invoice for the same amount every month, like for example, me, right, as a bookkeeper, I have ongoing clients. They pay me the same every month. I can invoice them and have it be set it and forget it for these. You can even have them, they're going to tell us all this stuff. You can even, you can even have them send it automatically for you so that you really, really, really are hands off, right? Automatically send emails, turn that on, and then I can automatically send it to Amy's Bird Sanctuary on whatever date I want. And never end after, if you are teaching like a course and they pay you for 6 months, you could do it after occurrences, right? There's so many different ways to automate in QuickBooks. Okay. What I want you to do is explore in here. Think about your business. What do you have that is pretty consistent month after month, quarter after quarter, week after week, whatever that consistency is, that frequency is, you can do it in here. That would be beneficial to have automated in QuickBooks rather than you having to go in every month. My last little bit on this one. Another benefit of adding these recurring bills is that this amount is then reflected in your QuickBooks balance. So obviously we haven't categorized all this stuff in here yet, but say we had, right, and this was maybe $3,600, this would only be $1,200 because it's accounting, it's subtracting my lease payment, my telephone bill, anything else to tell me the true amount of money in my cash flow right now that I can spend if I need to. All right, go ahead and explore with recurring transactions. See if you can create a couple new ones. What would be helpful for you? And then put some questions in the chat box and I will answer them all. And even for businesses that maybe don't have anything that is recurring and ordinary in the same amount month after month, creating templates that are going to save you time. I see this a lot with payroll, right? If you're using payroll from a different software than QuickBooks and you want to make sure to break them up by different positions, or making sure that your employer taxes is separate from your payroll taxes, instead of having to reinvent the wheel every month when it hits your bank account, you can create a template so that you can just put in those numbers and they'll go to the right place, right? Rather than having to use all of that brain energy to really figure out, well, how did I do this last month, right? Setting up these templates, and then you can just put in the new totals, the quantities. Brienne says, I'm trying to set up a recurring transaction for a subscription I started back in October, but QuickBooks said I can't backdate to an earlier day than today. Yes, right? Just because right, we're only moving forward with these recurring transactions. That makes sense. So if you haven't categorized yet, you'll want to go into the bank transactions. You'll have to categorize whatever's in there, but then moving forward, it will code it for you. And then know that once we have this, right, the 1140 in the bank, when I see that expense, like let's pretend this is here, this will say match, right? And so it's matching it to that recurring expense that I've made. Okay, so we wouldn't add it. That's why it's important that it's always the same amount month after month, right? Because it's using that to code it. Shaitan says, can you share a bit more about how to create recurring employee expense reports, including mileage? Ooh, can you tell me more about what you're looking for? So we want to remember that mileage is not a quantity of money, right? And so that is a little bit separate. So are you reimbursing for mileage? Do you reimburse for gas? Tell me a little bit more about what you're looking for. Recurring employee expense reports. So that might be more of our time tracking and payroll that we're going to talk about in a little bit. Any other questions about the recurring transactions? Another one that you can think about are like your insurance payments, that maybe you only pay them every half of a year, right? Every 6 months. And you want to make sure that it doesn't surprise you. Having that in here for that large amount can help you to see that cash flow on your bank transactions tab. Okay, so today we issue an expense check and then split the check amount per expense category. But we want to be able to first create an expense report in Quicken and then issue a check. Then once the check hits the bank, we just match it to the check amount from the downloaded QBO statement. Yep, so I think what you want to do is, instead of doing it recurring, right? Because when we, and Renee, this is going to go on you too, right? We want to make sure that it's for the same amount every month, right? If it varies from month to month, then this isn't a good solution. Instead, Renee, like so for my example, right? Basically, he's paying Hall Properties. He's just like recurring transaction. You're going to want to create a rule, which we talk power, a Dominion power expense comes through, it automatically goes to electric. That's the way that you would want to do that. Yeah, oh, Jennifer, good. Jennifer's asking this the same question, basically. Is it better to set up recurring transactions versus setting up rules? So they're kind of complementary, right? We want to do rules when it's a different amount, but you're paying the same vendor for the same thing whenever, right? So QuickBooks always goes to software. Dominion Power always goes to electricity. Your recurring is when it's the same amount and the same interval every time, right? So a little bit different. If I'm thinking like QuickBooks Electric by itself, I would probably go towards rules, whereas my recurring is a little bit more complicated, a little bit more granular is what I'm looking for. So Shaitan, I'm sorry if I'm not saying your name correctly. For what it sounds like what you want to do is if you're issuing a check, right, you're going to do plus create check, and then say this is one of your employees, contractors. You would want to do it all here. So say this is 55, this is a reimbursement. Craig doesn't have any of the stuff I want. Let's say this is fuel for $25. This is materials for $75. And then when you save it here, when the $155 check gets cashed or cleared, right, it will match it to that. That would probably be the most sense, make the most sense. But this might be a little bit more of a thorny problem question. So at the very end, we're going to do lots of just like open-ended. And I think maybe we can talk more there. You can unmute and tell us more. Does that sound good? All right, let's keep rolling. So one of the options here, right, is invoicing. And so when we're doing recurring transactions with invoicing, it's invoicing for the same amount at the same interval to the same person, right? But even if that doesn't suit your business, QuickBooks Online has a really robust invoicing dashboard software that I want to make you aware of. And so the first thing that a lot of people forget to do that I want to show you real quick is setting up your defaults. Okay, so if I go to the gear icon all the way up here in the upper right-hand corner, and I go to accounts and settings, you should have one called payments over here. Because this is a dummy account, they're not letting us see it. But the payments is how you're going to get paid in QuickBooks. But the other part I want us to look at is sales. So this sales tab, has you preset everything related to your invoice. So are you going to offer discounts? You can turn it on or off. Are you going to require deposits? You can turn it on or off. Same with accepting tips, right? All of these things you can customize here, and they will automatically set up in your when we get to the invoicing tab. All right, if you want to be tracking quantities, making sure that the price, so when we have a product and service, you can set a price and that will automatically populate every single time you create an invoice. Are you going to require late fees? Progress invoicing. This is really nice. So QuickBooks has a pretty formal tone to it, but you can adjust this so that it sounds like your business. Like maybe you don't like the word sincerely, right? You can change it to whatever you want it to look like and sound like. Do you want to use their full name or just their first name, right? Tons of customization so that when you send the invoice, it sounds and feels like you. This one, please turn this one on if you're going to invoice through QuickBooks. This will let you send automatic reminders so that your invoices get paid, okay? And you can adjust how many days before do you want it to come, or maybe not until after. You can adjust what the message is. A lot of people like to have friendly for the first reminder, a little bit more serious for the second, and then on the third, it's like, please pay, you need to pay me this money, right? So a ton of customizations here. Once this is set up, I'm gonna exit out. If we go to sales and get paid and go to our invoices, this is our invoicing dashboard. Now, as you can see, Craig doesn't have his invoicing reminders on. And look at all of these overdue invoices, right? This is awful. He needs to turn that on ASAP. But what's great is you get to see exactly how much is overdue, how much is not yet due, but sent out, right? It's out and as a receivable. Money that's been paid but not deposited. So this is if they've used your payment link or if you've said that you've received the payment but it hasn't hit your bank account yet. And then over here is deposited. So basically this whole transaction is cleared. One of the other great things about this is when I click into here, it's going to tell me the date that it was created, the date that it was sent, and the time. And then over here, it's going to tell me every single time that the invoice has been viewed and the time that it's been viewed. And so you're able to see and kind of infer what's going on. Like, has no one opened it? Maybe I sent it to the wrong email. Has it been viewed 20 times? Do they have a question about this invoice? Should I follow up? Right? Which is wonderful. When you create the invoice, again, right, you can see QuickBooks is doing a lot of the hard work for you. They're adding whatever I have here, whatever I want my title to be based on what was in that sales section. It's setting up my net terms on default based on what was in that sales section. You can see discount is available because I turned it on. And then, for example, right, because I have it as a default rate, it's putting it in here. So I don't need to be putting in this number again and again and again. Okay. There are so many different customizations for using QuickBooks Online. Okay. If you have a retail store or you're selling a good in high quantities, right? This might not be good for you, right? It might not be a good fit. If it's not a good fit, what I want you to use this time for is to look at your current POS system and make sure that you're getting paid in a timely manner. Okay, go ahead and look. Do you have automatic reminders set up on Square, on Shopify, PayPal, wherever? Do you have any problems with receivables? We want to make it so that it's as easy as possible to get paid, regardless of what you're using. Okay, so go ahead, take the next 3 to 5 minutes to do a little bit of an audit. How are you invoicing your clients? And are you getting paid in a timely fashion? I know some people don't like the idea of having to pay the fee for using QuickBooks, any POS system. And I think it's really important for you to remember that we want to have the customer have as seamless of an experience while paying you as possible. So if that means that we need to build the 1% or up to the 3% fee into our invoices, that's a solution, right? I always tell the story of when I had to get my my well pumped, and he said that he only took checks, and I don't have checks anymore. And so that became a big to do, right? I had to go get cash to pay him. And so that told me, you know what, I'm going to use someone else the next time. So we don't want that to be the reason that you're not getting repeat clients. Okay. So go ahead and do some auditing. Ask me questions. We want to just, and oh, this is where I was going with this. You can also turn off the payment options, right? And it would still keep this, like if I click here, edit, I can turn this off because we're in, it will be here, but because we're in the test drive, it's not allowing me to fiddle, but you can turn this on and off right here, okay? You can turn this off and still require cash, check, payment if that is how you strongly feel. But it's nice to have this list to know what your receivables are, right? If everything's just on your desktop, it's really easy for you to forget about an invoice you sent out via email, right? We want to make sure that it's nice and clean and that you get paid for everything that you've provided to your customers, to your clients. Brienne says, I need to connect Stripe, my POS, to QuickBooks, but could use a quick repeat lesson on how to get started doing that. Could you show the steps on your screen again? So for integrations, okay, it's really important that when you integrate with other apps that you're paying close attention to how it's coded. All right. So don't just take these next 3 minutes to set this up, Brienne. Make sure that you're making sure that everything is in the right place. Otherwise, that's how I get a lot of cleanup work every year is with these POS integrations. So if you Google in here, integration, my integrations, or find integrations, you can find your Stripe, your Square, you can see them all right here. Okay. You should be able to click get integration now here. And it will, you can see all here what the steps will be. So definitely go through all of this to make sure that that feels good to you. Because I can't actually get in here, I want to just show you real quick. So when you have your apps linked, I know this is really blurry, but I just want to show these 3 dots over here. You'll be able to click there and it will say settings. That's where you want to code everything from Stripe into QuickBooks. So you want to make sure that you want your Stripe sales to go into, I don't know, the sales income account. You want your Stripe fees to go into merchant fees. You want your sales tax to go to Virginia sales tax payable, right? That's where you're going to click all those. Make sure you do that. Otherwise, Stripe is going to create their own. Same with Square, same with PayPal, same with Etsy, all of these things. And then you have duplicates everywhere, okay? So that's where you're going to work with that. Honestly, with Stripe, doing a recurring journal entry once a month to move that money around, I think works just as well, okay, and is just as efficient. Yes, we're going to talk about sales tax at the very end. Any other questions about invoicing? How's everyone invoicing right now? If you want to put in the chat box, I know one person's using Stripe. Anybody doing PDF still? Anyone using QuickBooks well? Any PDFs? All right. Ronald, what do you think? You think you could move to QuickBooks? What do you think, Melanie? Same with you. Microsoft Word, PDF. Yes. Yay, Ronald. Awesome. Good. Yes, Melanie. Great. Yes, it really does keep things so much cleaner. Okay. And you're able to see. Another great thing is that once they pay, right? So if we look at so this invoice link, right? This is what, well, actually, no, let me show you this. So if we look here, right, I'm sending this. Once this, well, so this would look a little bit different. It would say like pay now on here once you have your payments linked, right? I want this to be deposited into my checking. Once they pay, when they come back to this link, it's going to force them to not, it's going to force them that they aren't able to pay again, right? And so that's really nice too, that the link is dead after they pay for it. So there's not all of these random links, duplicate payments, nothing like that. It keeps it really, really tight and clean. Emmabet, the fee for using invoicing. So if you're doing ACH, which is what I recommend for most businesses, right? That I think that's sufficient, is 1% up to $15. The credit card fees is 2.99. So similar to all of the other POS systems. If you are already using a Square for POS or Stripe, Shopify, it's largely the same amount. I would say pick what you feel most familiar with. So I know a lot of retail business owners, they really like Square, and the Square invoicing is just as good as QuickBooks. So just use Square and have Square be kind of like your payment processor. Okay. Daniel says, mine are automated to send but arrive by ACH. Is there a good way to reconcile, perhaps using automation? Great question. So if you are, yep, that's another solution. Thanks, Daniel, for saying that. So I've also seen people who don't want to pay the fee, right? And so instead, in their memo to their customer, right, you can say, please send ACH payment to blah, 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 right? You are giving your bank information, which to me is not very safe, right? But that is a way around it to still get the ACH rather than waiting for checks to arrive. So when that happens, Daniel, you receive a ACH payment for this $375, you should come in and click receive payment, right? This is the customer. You've received it here. You'll say how they paid, right? So this would be ACH check. And say where you're depositing the money to. So I'm going to deposit to the checking. Once that happens, record and close. This goes away, like at the bottom now we can see, where did it go? Was it this one? Must have been that one, I guess. All right, so, and then when you come to your bank transaction, it will say match. So it's like tying it up in a little bow. Okay. Automated, if you're invoicing for specific amounts, like if it's something like this, that is very specific, right? It's not just like 1,000, 100, whatever. QuickBooks will use AI to match it for you. They will suggest it for you. They won't do it for you because there is always the chance that it's something different. Okay. Okay. So Daniel, another option for you. So Daniel just said it's the same amount twice a month. So if that's the case, you could also get a bank authorization form signed by that person and do a recurring sales receipt, which I'm going to do plus new sales receipt, where you can schedule it you'd have to do two, right? One on the first day, one on the 15th day. But then you're able to take their information, and on the real one, it will have you put in this information. So you'll put in their ACH information for them, or if they're paying via credit card. And then this will automatically run every time that it needs to. So that's a solution to keep it really automated. You definitely want to get that bank authorization form signed, saved, even linked here would be a good idea. Okay. There's also this new one, recurring payments, right? There's lots of ways to automate. where you can have it. So this is largely the same thing as the recurring sales receipt too. All right, Miranda, this is what I'm talking about. Sometimes there's lots of questions. Hold on. All right, let's keep going. Shatan says, does QuickBooks integrate with any government invoicing and payment systems? I would say I would say 99% not, I would guess. I'm not sure though. Let me copy your question and I'll do some research after our call. Renee says, I invoiced a customer through QuickBooks and had payment options off and requested check to be mailed. They paid through QuickBooks anyway, and I got a quick call from QuickBooks. I needed to set up something to retrieve my money. I got a message stating the customer paid about $25 to use this service. Yes, so that's another way to get around having to pay the QuickBooks fee, Renee. So if you turn off all of the payment options, right? So I get back in here. And everything is off here. The customer who really wants to pay you via not a check, right? They don't want to have to mail a check. They can also choose to still pay via ACH, but they incur the fee of $25. I think it might be a percentage of your total invoice. But yeah, so that's a solution. So Renee, I would get so again, if you go to this gear icon, accounts and settings, if you're in your true account, you should have one over here called payments. I think it's like the second or the third. Click there and put in where you would want to receive that payment, and then it will deposit it to you, which is kind of a nice thing if they really don't want to pay via check. So that's a solution. That's QuickBooks trying to accommodate the customer. Richard says, how can I get QuickBooks certified? That is a great question. So that you're going to want to go through QuickBooks Accountant, and there's trainings, there's modules, and you have to take a test once a year to get QuickBooks certified. But that's a great goal. Are you a bookkeeper or accountant, or just want to really, really learn it deeply? That's great. Okay. Emma says, do you recommend going back and creating customer receipts if you receive auto payments through PayPal? I think no. I would want to know more about your business. What are you selling? Are you selling large ticket items? Are you selling smaller things? And so PayPal has an integration. If it's important for you to have all of your PayPal data, like your PayPal customer data, into QuickBooks, then do the integration and it will bring everything in there for you. If it doesn't matter that much, right? If you have lots of customers, like a smaller item. So nonprofit. So these are donors. Donations. Okay. Yeah. So for that, I would want to have their data in QuickBooks, right? So that you can run reports and see what they're spending, their donation patterns are. I would say yes, if I were you. You all have the best questions today. Is there a reference sheet for creating a good chart of accounts based on the industry type, manufacturer, consultant? There is no reference sheet, but that's something that you and I can definitely work on together in the one-on-ones if you would want. I would also ask your colleagues in your space what they prioritize for their chart of accounts. And honestly, what matters to you, right? At the end of the day, we need to get our tax returns done. But what my goal for you is that you start using this data to make informed decisions, right? Be able to differentiate between revenue streams, be able to run, and I think that's where we're going next, actually. Reports based on certain aspects of your business. But I'm sure some Googling, maybe some chat GPT and would give you some great advice too. But yes. Okay, one more thing, two more things, and then we're going to basically be closing up and we'll have lots of questions, lots of time for a lot of these other questions. Okay, our next spot is classes and locations. So as you grow as a business, right, it's pretty common to get more complicated, right? Your bookkeeping is going to get more complicated. Your operations are going to get more complicated. Everything gets more complicated. And QuickBooks has recognized that and has created something called classes and locations so that you can be able to track different segments of your business, large segments of your business. So my business is not a good component for this, right? I largely provide similar services and my expenses are all under the umbrella of bookkeeping, right? This is something for if you have maybe a couple locations, right? If you're a restaurant, if you're a contractor, if you maybe are even a SaaS business, right? Maybe you have a software that you sell, but you also do some consulting work and you want to track those two separate pillars for your business. QuickBooks allows you to do this without having to get a second QuickBooks subscription. So we're going to turn this on. You have to turn this on. And this is also a feature for Plus and above. So if you're still in Simple Start or Essentials, watch this and see if it's worth upgrading. Otherwise, you might not be able to do it at this point, which is fine, which is absolutely fine. It's just a game changer tool to use as you get larger. Actually, I'm a bet with you as a nonprofit, this might be something that you want to consider for grant tracking restricted funds. So we're going to go to the gear icon, again to accounts and settings. As you can see, everyone, there's a lot in this accounts and settings tab. In QuickBooks 101, I tell them to go through all of these and make sure that everything is accurate. But if some of you haven't come to that one yet, I want to make sure you spend some time in here. All right, so we're going to go to advanced. And we're going to come down to categories and we're going to turn on classes. So you're probably wondering, what's the difference between classes and locations, right? So classes is more for your profit and loss sheet. So your income and your expenses. And my big differentiator, the reason I mainly use classes is that you can assign different classes for each row within a transaction. So when you split a transaction, you can give each line a different class if you want to, which I think is like the most beneficial part. Locations, you can't. Each transaction only gets one location, okay? So I'm gonna save this. So my classes is on. And now I'm gonna go back to the gear and I'm going to go to all lists. And now I have an option for classes. I'm gonna click on there. And I'm going to create some new classes. So this is Craig, remember, this is Craig's landscape design. So I'm going to say that he has a branch in Charlottesville for his landscaping. And he just opened a new one in Richmond. Okay. So now I have two classes. You can have as many classes as you want. However, I would be strategic about what classes you choose, right? You don't want to have 20 different classes, right? You want to think about your core offerings within your business. So for the nonprofit, I'm a bet you might want to have your maybe 3 core fundraising campaigns that you do, and then maybe a couple of programs that you provide, right? Probably like less than 10, I would think. And then like maybe an operational one, okay? So I have my 2 classes. Now, if I go back, so accounting, bank transactions, when I start categorizing, so A1 rental, And what is this? Equipment rental. Now, where is it? Hold on, let me refresh. There we go. Now I have this class, A1 rental equipment, Charlottesville. Right, so now that one is Charlottesville. And I'm going to add this one to Richmond. Now, when I go to my reports and I do the P&L by class, come on, QuickBooks. Oh my goodness, where did it go? This is accurate. But what should happen is you should have a Charlottesville. What was the date? I wonder, let's see. It's not here. You all saw me do that. You would have a Charlottesville column that would have the equipment rental for, yeah, it's not even in here, for the $800 and the equipment rental for the $1,200. Now, just having that is not that beneficial, right? It's like, okay, fine. But once you have everything in those columns, you're able to really be able to compare one location from the other or one pillar from the next, one offering from the other. I see this a lot with startups who want to be tracking different revenue streams and the people that are supporting those revenue streams. So that might be something that's beneficial to you. Again, you're paying almost $100 a month to get that Plus subscription, but it can be really such a game changer to be able to see that in the separate columns. Let me see. See, it's back. Let me try one more time for you. I mean, this doesn't matter. Equipment. So go ahead and think about your business. Is there a need for this? I also see this if you are a short-term or long-term rental manager, right? You would be tracking those locations, the fees that are associated, the taxes. I see that often. Nonprofits is a big one. Yeah, so it's not working right now, but it works for the true. This is probably a problem with the test drive. So go ahead and explore. Is that worthwhile for you? Do you have a simple business? Do you not need that? Maybe in 5 years, right? Do you see the potential in a couple of years to be using this? Yeah. Any questions, thoughts about the classes and locations? Shaitan, I'm going to table your question about reconciling until the end. Okay. And if you haven't come to QuickBooks 101, we talk a lot about categorizing, reconciling, chart of accounts, all that good stuff in QuickBooks 101. So that might be, so add that to your calendar for 2026. But we can talk about it at the end of the session too. Any questions about classes and locations? All right, we're going to keep rolling. The next spot we're going to go to is our journal entries, is the journal entry tab. So we've spoken a little bit about the recurring journal entries, right, for your POS system, possibly, but there are a lot of different situations where you might need to create a journal entry for your QuickBooks file. Okay, and so to get to journal entries, you're going to click plus new in journal entry. And I feel like when I show this screen to newer business owners, they're always like, oh my gosh, this looks so overwhelming. So know that with journal entries, we're moving into true accounting. Okay, this is true business accounting. And so it's important to understand that with accounting, right, there's always, we call it double entry accounting. There's two things that are happening. There's a flow of funds from one place to the other, right? And so QuickBooks does a lot of this hard work for us, if we think about it. They are always putting money from our checking to the vendor, right? I pay QuickBooks, so the money comes out of my checking and it flows to QuickBooks, and I categorize it as a software expense, right? They're doing that back end. Same deal for customers, right? The customer pays you via check and it goes into your checking account as income, right? Sometimes there isn't a transaction in your bank to account for this flow of funds. So when we think about this, this could be interest, right? Loan interest. It could be mortgage interest, vehicle interest. This could be an escrow payment if you have your mortgage on here. It could be cash sales or cash expenses. It could be personal, you paying for things on a personal card for your business. Here's another one. At the end of the year, we need to zero out your equity every year, right? Take accounting for the amount of investment that you've put into your business and also the amount of draw that you've taken for the year. So this is something top of mind in just 16 days, 17 days. We need to make sure we get this in for 2025. So when you're doing a journal entry, we're going to add both of these accounts here, number one, number two, though it can go very long, right? Like if we think about that payroll journal entry, if we have a lot of employees, it's going to be pretty steep. And so while that sounds simple enough, right? Okay, add two accounts, add the amounts. The added complication here is that debits and credits increase and decrease different types of accounts. So a debit is going to increase an expense account, but a credit is going to increase an income account, right? So very, very complicated, right? It's confusing. And so it's not important for you as the business owner to know this off the top of your head. Instead, I recommend that you Google credits and debits cheat sheet so that you can use a chart like this to make sure you're putting your money or putting the totals, the quantities in the right places. Further, after filling out a journal entry, definitely go into your reports and make sure that it was applied correctly. Okay? Because it can be confusing. And luckily, this is another good reason to create those recurring journal entries, even if it's like your equity journal entry once a year, so that you can go in, put the numbers in, and feel good about it. Okay, I still get them confused where I have to flip flop them every once in a while. So for the sake of today, we're going to say that I had just opened up Craig's Landscaping out of Charlottesville, and I bought some new business cards off of my personal credit card, okay, by mistake. So what I'll do is I'll choose the journal date. Journal numbers can be numbers, but they can also be words. So sometimes I like to do like 1225 business cards. Okay. So my account is advertising and they cost $75. I know a debit If I come over here again, right, a debit is going to increase my expense, right? So I'm going to do that. And my credit is an owner investment. You should have this as an option. Craig doesn't for some reason. It's an equity account, owner's equity. Okay, so QuickBooks is going to do it. So these always need to be balanced, right? The total debit is the same as the total credit. It's a flow of funds. Taking money out of my personal account and moving it in to pay Canva, right? So this would be Canva, right? And this is my name. And that's it, right? Because journal entries are you manually inputting data into QuickBooks, I always recommend having a description. So Seville business cards paid via Canva. Okay. And then you can also add the attachment so that you have it here. Okay. We want to be really tight in with journal entries. Anything that we don't have, even tighter with anything that we don't have like evidence with like a bank statement or credit card statement. Okay. And that's that. Oops. That's that. And then I can save and close. All right. So go ahead and take a few minutes to create some journal entries. See if you can create one for adding personal business expenses that were paid on a personal card. Maybe see if you can move your interest from a mortgage, a loan, a vehicle over onto the profit and loss as an expense. Okay. Go ahead and explore for a couple of minutes. It's a little bit of a muscle memory. You got to keep practicing to get that. But go ahead and explore it. Keep adding the questions. What questions do you have? Don't be quiet now, everyone. Come on. Keep asking the questions. So Shaitan says, is it better to do an expense report for expenses paid by a personal card or do a journal entry? Results are the same, but what is the best way, especially keeping taxes in mind? Yeah, so when you're doing an expense report, as long as you're breaking apart that expense report for the individual expense accounts, right? Those do largely work the same way. When you're doing a reimbursement, right, you're able to move those funds from your business account into a personal payment, right, to yourself or to an employee, whatever. So that you do see that flow of funds. Whereas a journal entry, you're manually putting it in and taking it as an owner's investment. I would say there isn't a better way. I would think about cash flow, right? Like, are you expecting repayment of that right away? If cash flow isn't an issue, then why not repay yourself, right? And not have it be an investment into the business. Largely with new businesses, we are investing a lot of funds. And so that's how we're going to do that and not get repaid in that tax year. Great question. All right, one more major spot and then two tiny ones, and then we can do a free for all with all these questions. All right, so let's now go back to our reporting. So I'm assuming that most of you, right, are familiar with your profit and loss. That's your income minus your expenses and brings you to your profit. and your balance sheet. That's your assets, your liabilities, and your equity. But as you can see, QuickBooks gives you so many other reports, right? And it can be overwhelming. So I'm only going to introduce you to two other reports that I really love as a business owner for myself and as a bookkeeper for others. And that is number one, this profit and loss by month. So if we click on here, right now I have it for this year to date, but you can do all dates, you can do just this year, you could do just the last quarter, whatever you want to see. And you're able to see month over month the trends that are happening within your business. And so this, especially if your business is within like the first year or two, it's really important for you to identify trends in the seasons for your business, trends in either like any really dry months that you have, right? So a lot of business, either December is a great month or a very tight month, right? And so if we look here, we can tell what's going on in Craig's business. So if I look, it looks like he's had a couple of big projects coming in November. He's ramping up sales. What else do I see? They change this every time. So there are, I'm looking at here, looks like pest control. He might have had a big refund that he had to give, which I'm kind of alarmed for. I'd want to know more about this. Should we just remove this service if he's only doing this every other month for 3 months, right? Does he have the bang for his buck? And as you can see, right, looks like he's spending a lot more in November than he was in September and October. Does that warrant our additional? Do our sales warrant the additional expenses? I mean, let's see. He's at a profit, a slight profit, right? And so you can really start pulling out different pieces of information. All of these buttons, too, all of these tools, you can click into to see what's going on too at a transaction level. So I like to look at this holistically, right? It's just one expense. You can also, if I switch to classic view, they just updated and now there's a classic view and a modern view, and I think the classic view is still better. Instead of months, right? Maybe you've been in the game for a while. You can do it by quarters. You can do it by years, right? He hasn't been in this very long, but you could have year over year over year to see what your trends are, big picture. Okay. Seeing maybe what your expenses are. Has anything gotten really out of whack year over year that you need to adjust? Okay. So profit and loss by month report. Again, you all are doing such a great service to yourselves by thinking about this information now, right? The end of the year, you can make some adjustments now and set yourself up for some real success in 2026. The other one I really love is the profit and loss as percentage of total income. So for this one, first, right, I can look and see the percentages for my separate income streams that I have going on. So it looks like design income, right, is about a quarter of his income. He's got, these are all the landscaping services. All the landscaping services, 63%. Then he has these oddballs, right? Like, again, I'm thinking this pest control, why are we offering this? Let's get rid of this and focus our energy on something else. And then the other part, though, right, is that we can see the percentage of income we're spending on our expenses. And so this is kind of those light bulb moments where you're like, whoa, I'm spending way too much on certain aspects of my business. So if I look at his, I mean, this one, this seems alarming to me, right? What is miscellaneous? Let's get this in a true income expense account so we can have better accuracy, right? We never really want to use anything that's miscellaneous. Anything that's called like purchases is not specific enough. Anything that's called uncategorized. We want to move all of these up into true expense accounts so that you can pull this data better, okay, more accurately. So another great one to look at, all right, is the percentage of income. Go ahead and run these two reports. Feel free to adjust all of this data that you can adjust in here, right? What's important to you. You can customize further over here, having certain filters, right? If you want to look at just one of your customers and see how much income and expenses have come through them for the year, you can do that. So this is just for Amy's landscape, Amy's sanctuary, right? Lots of different customizations. When you find something you like, you can save this customization so that you can rerun this report again and again and again, month after month after month. Okay, so think about what's important to you. What are your main pain points right now? What would be helpful to have as a report that you can pull up when you need and want it? And if you're not familiar with the standard P&L and balance sheet yet, maybe check that out for the next couple of minutes. All right, 3 more minutes for that. Any questions on the reports? Remember, this is largely why we're doing all this QuickBooks stuff, right? So you can start looking at these reports, analyzing, making better decisions for your business, which at the end of the day should lead to better profitability. All right, let's keep going. So 3 other offerings that QuickBooks has that may or may not be useful for you. So the first one is payroll. I want you to just be aware, maybe. This payroll, they're changing all their names. Team, right? So payroll has several different branches of or levels of payroll, just like true payroll providers like Rippling, ADP, Gusto have. So if you find importance of having all of your data in one place, absolutely know that QuickBooks offers payroll processing for you. It's at this time of in our world, to me, it is absolutely worth the $50, $70 that it's going to cost to pay your team and have a software file and pay your payroll taxes for you, if you can float it, right? And so if you're still sending those manually, doing all that math on your own, really consider, if it's not QuickBooks, I really like Gusto, ADP is stepping up their game. There's lots of different options for payroll processing. And the beauty of this is if you do use QuickBooks, then all of those journal entries get done automatically. And so we're able to not have to worry about those long journal entries moving everybody's money around into the different liabilities tax accounts. Okay. Also, if you're like Craig, right, you might need to be tracking time for your employees. And so QuickBooks has a time kiosk feature also. Again, you have to pay extra for it. I think it's $6 an employee. But what's great about this, it has geofencing. So if you have an employee that's going from project to project throughout the day, right? Maybe you're a plumber or an electrician or an HVAC company, you can have them check in and check out. You're including the mileage and the travel time in here. Also, if you're using something like projects in QuickBooks where you're keeping track, maybe you're a contractor, you can have each employee clock in for each project so that you can job cost right in QuickBooks, which is this is something that a lot of like contractors use. So something to consider. Something else that's great about this will transfer your data right into payroll. So basically, they're keeping track of their timesheet in QuickBooks Time, and then it syncs into QuickBooks, and then QuickBooks Payroll, and then you are only responsible for clicking approve, and then basically payroll is done for you. So a benefit of keeping everything in one place is that efficiency and everything talking to one another. The final part I wanted to show you is, I think someone did mention earlier, sales tax. So you can also set up, they're probably not going to let us see much, but you can also, if you are invoicing for a good, right, a product, you are able to collect sales tax for whichever states you have Nexus in directly in QuickBooks, and they will keep track of the tax liability month over month over month. They do not pay sales tax for you though. So that is something that's pretty standard. No POS systems pay sales tax for you other than I think Etsy might be the only one still doing that. And maybe Amazon, but know that this is all in nice in one place. Again, when you're adding that customer, you're adding the address, and then QuickBooks is using that address to determine if you need to collect sales tax or not. So another time saver, especially if you're still on the PDF route, like if you're still sending documents or PDFs via email, right? Having it set up here, this is going to help you to keep track more exactly of what that tax liability is month over month or quarter over quarter. Okay. Tell me that's the end of my Beyond the Basics of QuickBooks Online. Again, there is so much in this software, right? We probably could do a QuickBooks 301, 401 and still have more to talk about. But I hope that this has given you a few nuggets for taking your QuickBooks use to the next level. At the end of the day, my nerdy bookkeeper goal is that you all move from just having this be a compliance thing to being able to look at your data and make good decisions and have yourself be running a better, stronger, more profitable, more efficient business. Okay. We have 27 more minutes, which is intentionally designed for you to ask me anything that you have that is still lingering for your QuickBooks use. Okay. Again, I want to say kudos to you all for thinking about bookkeeping right now during the holidays at the very end of the year. It's going to pay off in dividends when January 1st comes and you can just start getting rolling. So I'm going to start with, I know Shaitan said, can you help explain in detail how to reconcile each account? I always have an issue reconciling. Also, the issue has seen with QuickBooks is that it keeps downloading fiscal year 2024 charges even after they've been downloaded before we have closed out fiscal year 2024. Shaitan, I think you and me need to get a follow-up. Oh, also, guys, I want to make sure that I say this. Know that within the Capital Pathways program, this is a free option to meet with me or to meet with another advisor for anything related to the financial side of your business. So take advantage of that. I think it's a wonderful grant, a wonderful offering. Know that we're all here to help you. So Shaitan, with reconciling, if we go to accounting and bank transactions, the workflow with reconciling, right, is we want to categorize everything in here so that we have a green check mark, right? If I categorize this. Oh my goodness. And you all know that practice is adding a vendor, right? We want to make sure that we're doing that. So I'm going to add this. And you can see, right, I have this green check mark. In a perfect world, these numbers are the same, right? This is the bank that's coming, the bank balance that's getting synced with QuickBooks. This is actual what's in QuickBooks. So something's wrong here, right? Once I have this green check mark, I'm coming to reconcile. You're going to choose your account, savings. I have my beginning balance. I'm getting this from my bank statement. I'm putting in my ending balance, and my ending date, let's just say it was the end of November, and start. So all of these should check, right? Because this is all that's on that bank statement. If I have a difference, which it sounds like you might, right? You're going to want to look what's on QuickBooks and look what's on your bank statement and determine, do you need to add a transaction? Do you need to add an expense? Do you need to add a bank deposit? Or do you have a duplicate and do you need to delete something? Right? What we should see, again, this is just fooling around. This is not accurate. You should never just change it so that it finishes, right? Is we want to have this green check mark, $0 difference, finish now. This means that everything that's in my bank matches what's in the QuickBooks file. What QuickBooks is just a software, right? So it's not my bank. I need to make sure that it's all accurate. All right. Yay, Melanie. Melanie is inspired. That's a big word for QuickBooks. That's amazing. Thank you, Melanie. Thank you, Christopher. Thank you, Alicia. Yay. She thinks she loves it more now. That's amazing. You're building up my nerdy bookkeeper brain. Yes, Desiree, come again. We're doing it throughout the spring. So come to another QuickBooks 101, 201. You're more than welcome to repeat. Thank you, Paula. Brenda, I was just getting ready to sign up with a QuickBooks vendor, but I have the basic QuickBooks account. Do I need to upgrade with payroll? Tell me, Brenda, can you tell me a little bit more? So you're looking for payroll? Do you need payroll? So let's see. You need payroll. So if you do payroll, they require you have essentials, I believe. So you do have to upgrade a little bit. If you have a simple business, right, that you don't need that essentials, then I would recommend looking at something like Gusto, which is it's maybe even a couple bucks cheaper than QuickBooks payroll. If you're not opposed to having a separate payroll versus QuickBooks. If you like the idea of having everything in one place, then you'd have to upgrade. Brianne, I have a question. Do you have any issues with the bank feed linking the bank accounts to QuickBooks breaking regularly and requiring the client to go back in and reconnect the feed? I have a bookkeeper who acts as my QuickBooks monthly to reconcile for me. And for some reason, the connection to my bank breaks every time she goes in. I have to log in, reconnect manually. She doesn't have this issue with other bookkeeping clients. Have you ever run into this? So some banks, Brianne, do you have a smaller bank or Truist? No, that's odd. That seems like bad luck. No, Truist is usually pretty pretty on, like I have a ton of clients on Truist too. I would say that's odd. Yeah. Are you changing like your passwords often? Are you doing anything like that? Not changing password. Huh. I'm not sure. So I'm not sure. I don't know what to tell you on that one, Brienne. That seems odd to me. Brenda said QuickBooks looks cheaper than Gusto. I'm pretty sure Gusto is 48 a month and QuickBooks is 54, but don't quote me on that, Brenda. Definitely shop around. I think most, as long as you go by with a reputable one, ADP, what else is out there? Um, I think you'll be fine. But if QuickBooks looks the cheaper option, remember you would have to upgrade. Let's see. Lena, what about recordings for QuickBooks 101? Do we have one that's live for people to watch? What's the plan for that?
Absolutely. If you reach out to us via email, I will drop that email again in the group chat. We can absolutely send you one of our past recordings. Otherwise, but we do highly encourage you to attend our next one, which is actually in January, our next QuickBooks 101. So I am happy to put my email in there, but also the link to our upcoming webinars for you to take a look and register.
Shaitan says, what options are available in QuickBooks Online? Oops, I lost your question. To, to manage or restrict downloaded bank transactions from a reconciled and closed fiscal year without risking missing valid transactions. So you should not, once you're reconciled here, these this all of this information is now in your reporting. So you shouldn't be duplicating anything. Um, I'm hoping I'm getting your question right. If for some reason you've duplicated your downloads, like let's just say that in here there are still more transactions that you don't need because you've reconciled, you can exclude here and those go away. So those don't go onto your reporting. You can click here and see whatever your excluded list is. This typically doesn't happen, Shaitan. So I'm wondering what the bigger problem might be for you. Another option you have, I'm just going to talk about closing your books, is if you click on this gear icon, guess where we're going? My favorite place, accounts and settings. If we go to advanced and under accounting, you'll see that you have this close the books feature. So if you're worried that other people are coming in and messing up your books after you, right? After you have set these up, you can turn on close the books and you would put your closing date. So say I finish all of my record keeping and I'm going to file my taxes and I want no one to touch my books after I file my taxes, which is what we want, right? Um, we don't want, sorry, I'm getting distracted by the comments. We don't want you to change anything in your books after you file your taxes, right? We want it to be the same. That's being in compliance. That's being audit proof. So you can only allow changes after viewing a warning and entering a password. So I highly recommend that you change this and add this to something that only you who know the repercussions of adjusting your data are, right? And so this would be the rule. You can still get it. I mean, it's kind of, Usually, like with true accounting, you really can't get in there and make any adjustments. But this, you would still be able to make an adjustment if you absolutely needed to, uh, for the sake of your business. You just need to make sure you have that password somewhere safe. Okay. All right. Yeah, so Shaitan, it looks like you want to just exclude all of those then if for some reason they're coming through. That's odd. Page says, my business partner originally posted deposits for each invoice rather than lumping them all together as part of a larger deposit, which has really messed up our accounting, trying to balance and reconcile. Sounds like it. Is there a way to go back and remove duplicate payments? I do them as payments to be deposited, but she was doing them individually. So if we get out of here, you should be able to see, like if I'm here and I click match page, are you saying that here you have lots of extra received payments? So that your accounts receivable is higher than it actually is? Is that what you're saying? Or payments to be deposited? Paige, are you here still? So I'm just going to keep talking, but you put it in the comments if you're still here. You can click in here, receive payments, and do more, and then delete. Yeah. Yep. And you could actually really easily see this page if while you're reconciling, you should see them as all uncleared. And that would probably be the easiest way, I would guess. The problem is, so let me just show you quick. So if you're in here, let's just do 100. So if we're in here, you should have all of those uncleared payments, received payments be in here, right? So you should be able to click edit and delete right from your reconciliation tab. The problem is you want to make sure that you're not deleting the ones that are attached to the invoice. So be conscientious when you're deleting them, because then if you delete the received payment on your invoices, it would go back to this, right? Because it's gone. But if you have two received payments, you want to delete the one that's not attached to a bank deposit, to the physical deposit. I bet that's messing up your customer balances too, right? Is it double the amount of balances? So that sounds like a nice little holiday cleanup to do, Paige. Sorry. Miriam, question. In your experience, what do you recommend for a small business owner pay for the bookkeeping part or do it myself? Honestly, I think it depends how small you are, right? I think that there is such a huge benefit to having business owners do their own books. I only have a job, I only have a profession because this is an easy thing to delegate, right? So thinking about your time costs, thinking about your opportunity costs, but I think it's really important to be in the know with your numbers, right? I can't tell you the amount of my clients who don't look at their books, right? They trust me implicitly, which is awesome. But I want you to be looking at your numbers, analyzing your numbers, making decisions. And so I would say keep doing it until you feel that opportunity cost, where you feel like you could be doing higher leverage things than doing your books. Oftentimes with small, and I'm making a ton of inferences, Miriam. I don't know if you're big or small or what, um, but with really small businesses, this should take you less than an hour a month, right? To get all this done. And so if you have that time, then yeah, do it yourself so that you can look at your numbers and make and be more intimate with that. If not, then I think it's a safe thing to delegate. But definitely make sure that you're asking good questions, making sure that you're trusting the person that you're going to work with. Um, QuickBooks Live, it makes me really anxious, right? Where they kind of pass you around and get your books done. So make sure you find someone that you can trust with, you can work with. Patricia, do we get a replay of this webinar? Lena, I think so. I think by the end of the week they send it out.
Yes, within a week, we usually send out the recording of the webinar.
Awesome. Thanks, Patricia. And Paige, if you, again, this would be a great thing if you wanted to get on a call with me. We can try to figure out a plan to clean that up with more detail. Great questions, everyone. I hope you have a happy holiday. I hope you have a great week ahead. And thanks for coming.
Thank you so much, Jamie, for your time, and for everyone who participated. We wish you a very happy holiday month. And just to remind everyone, if you are interested in one-on-one advising, I drop the link to our website for intake in the chat. And you can have one-on-one advising with our business advisors, including Jamie. And you will get a recording of this webinar afterwards within a week, and you will also get our slides. So, thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your days. And thank you, Jamie, once more for your very valuable time.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.